Republican state legislatures across the country are responding to the demonstrations over George Floyd's murder with punitive new measures intended to discourage protests altogether. In the 2021 legislative session, lawmakers in 34 states have introduced more than 80 anti-protest bills, the vast majority of them drafted by Republicans. And so far, 4 Republican governors have signed the measures into law, including in the state of Florida. And if it wasn't already clear that this is a direct response to the Black Lives Matter protests, Governor Ron DeSantis actually cited the Derek Chauvin trial when he enacted what he's calling an anti-rioting law. As NPR reports, the law creates a new crime called mob intimidation, and it requires that anyone arrested at a protest be denied bail until their first court appearance, likely making for overnight jail stays. In other words, it would punish anyone at a peaceful protest who might be swept up alongside a minority of bad actors. Unbelievably, that law also grants civil immunity to drivers who run their cars through protesters if those protesters are blocking roads. Worse yet, a new law signed just yesterday in Oklahoma grants criminal immunity to motorists if they, quote, unintentionally injure or kill protesters on roadways. It comes after the driver of a pickup truck did exactly that on a highway in Tulsa last May, leaving one protester paralyzed after he fell from an overpass. These are the kinds of wacky provisions that some critics say might have protected the neo-Nazi who was convicted of murdering Heather Heyer with his vehicle in Charlottesville. Likewise, in Kentucky, the fierce guardians of the Second Amendment are taking aim at the First. The Republican state Senate there wanted to make it a crime to insult or taunt a police officer with offensive or derisive words or gestures. And the bill's sponsor may reintroduce that legislation this session. These are stunning examples of how Republicans think that they can legislate away your First Amendment right to protest. It's the same strategy that they've used on voting rights. When they lose elections, they vote to make it hard. They want to make it harder to vote. And joining me now is Florida State Representative Anna Eskamani and Brittany Packnett Cunningham, MSNBC contributor and host of the Undistracted podcast. And Representative Eskamani, in Florida, you had a sheriff. DeSantis did this signing ceremony with a Polk County sheriff named Grady Judd. And this was the warning that he issued. This is cut 3 from my producers.
This is a riot. And this will get you locked up before quick in the state of Florida. Pay attention. We've got new law. And we're going to use it if you make us.
And I doubt he was showing a picture of the January 6th MAGA insurrection, which was the siege of the Capitol. I'm sure he doesn't think that was a riot. The Washington Post points out that now in Florida, taking down a monument, like if you take down a Confederate monument, will get you 15 years in prison, which is the same sanction as rape. Your thoughts?
It's disgusting how we're protecting Confederate monuments more than we're protecting everyday people here in Florida. And the fact that these sheriffs were given such a platform to continue to instill fear in people across this state on a law designed to suppress our First Amendment rights is incredibly offensive, and I was proud to vote no on this bill.
Brittany, this feels like it's directed at y'all. This is directed at Black Lives Matter. It feels so George Wallace that I'm shocked that George Wallace didn't actually think of it back when he was governor of Alabama.
Oh, this is straight out of the Jim Crow textbook. And let's contextualize Jim Crow, shall we? When Black people got more free, there were new laws created to make us less free. This is exactly what is happening right now. What this actually shows me, Joy, is that white supremacy is scared to death of us, and it absolutely should be. This is what you do when you cannot win fair and square. You suppress votes and you suppress voice. So we have to pay attention here because the GOP plays the long game and they play the expansive game. They plan far in advance. They gerrymander states so that they can control state houses, and then they use all of that power to maintain their power and suppress us from multiple angles. So then they make it illegal to engage in the 2 most democratic practices you've got in this country, and they make sure to target Black folks when they do it. That way, that among other things, you can leverage the police that you've militarized to protect your systems and to continue to terrorize us. So it's our job to keep them on the ropes because this is what desperation looks like, and I want them to stay desperate. They know how powerful we are. That's why we're seeing this.
And Representative Eskamani, the racist Miami sheriff who coined the term "when the looting starts, the shooting starts" was from South Florida. Donald Trump then turns around and quotes him. Ron DeSantis appears to really want to reenact the entire George Wallace history. I guess he wants to be the modern day George Wallace, because he is enacting a slew of laws that essentially try to make it illegal to protest in the state of Florida, illegal to touch their precious Confederate statues from the losing side in the Civil War, right? But then also, we also can't vote. This is Jim Crow in your state. What can Democrats do about it?
Well, I think both you and Brittany have made some excellent points, because it's not just the right to protest. And we've called House Bill 1 Hate Bill 1, because it's absolutely designed to continue to divide our state and to pit people against each other, when really we have so much in common that we can work towards. And not only do we see this anti-protest legislation, but as Brittany said, we also have a voter suppression bill on deck here in Florida. We see efforts to make ballot amendment initiatives, which is how we got medical cannabis and a $15 minimum wage more difficult in the Sunshine State. We're preempting local governments from doing their own policies on areas like clean energy and gun safety. All of this is part of a collective effort to stifle democracy so that those in power can maintain in power. And what Democrats need to do is, first of all, call out the BS on these bills. Don't be shy about saying it is what it is. This is white supremacy in policy. And at the same time, we got to organize and we got to win elections, because I'll tell you, Joy, we fought hard on the House floor with Hate Bill 1. We don't have the numbers to win. So we have to organize and win elections.
And the Kentucky bill, Brittany, it literally tries to criminalize what those witnesses did in the George Floyd trial. That they stood there and they tried to face down that officer and berated him. They will make that illegal in Kentucky. Is Black Lives Matter, prepared? And how are y'all preparing to deal with this, particularly when you have police officers donating to Kyle Rittenhouse, showing support to him and making him a cause celeb among law enforcement? There was just a guy fired in Virginia for this. A bunch of other officers have been doing it too. Do you feel, how under siege does Black Lives Matter feel, knowing you're facing these kinds of politicians, but also some folks in law enforcement that are supporting people like Rittenhouse?
Well, the broad
Black Lives Matter protesters.
Absolutely. Let's be clear. And he was taken alive. He and his AR-15 are doing just fine right now, while Ma'Khia Bryant is dead. Look, the broad network of individuals and organizations that are a part of this racial justice movement are disciplined, organized, and thoughtful. We know that white supremacy, to paraphrase Rick James, is a hell of a drug. And once you get high on it once, you keep wanting to attach yourself to it. So we understand what we're working against here. That is part of the reason why, if you look across the country, people are not just pressuring the federal government to do things like pass the For the People Act. People are also working as organizers with those elected officials who have our back. People like Park Cannon in Georgia, people like the new mayor of my hometown, St. Louis, Tashara Jones, who has been on our team since day one. We want to make sure that we are in every single place so that we are setting the policy and that we are holding people accountable. I guarantee you that all over this country, organizers from the top to the bottom are ready for this fight.
Yeah, amen. Well, they're not only getting higher, they get higher on their own supply, which you're not supposed to do. Florida State Representative Anna Eskamani, thank you very much. Brittany Packnett Cunningham, thank you very much. Still ahead, Stacey Abrams will be here.